Sideline of goal! Lane Widow's doing it! They're gonna take! He's gonna bring down Bernie! Alone with a double kill! Dropping fast! Mana points there! He's still alive! Wait, oh, second slide! He's got one side! He's got a second! He's taking it out! They're overtime! On three! They're all dead!
Welcome back everybody to the Summit 2 by G2A.com. We've got game 2 of our first series of today for the Summit 2 China. We've got CDEC versus LGD Gaming. LGD Gaming winning game 1 in pretty convincing fashion. We've got game 2 coming out now. We'll see if CDEC can bounce back. This time around I won't be alone. I talked to Coddle Guy. I said, man, I need some help. He was a bit sick, had a bit of a headache. I asked, man, if he got his little kitten in a cup, if he had his little gnome from next door, but none of them were available. But I've got one even better. I've got F4L joining me. F4L, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm impressed that Coddle Guy found me someone better than Kitten in the Cup. So I'm glad you're here to join me.
Kitten in the cup. Is that a real person? I don't know the joke there.
Ah, it's one of Dakota's ongoing co-casters. But
nice. Nice.
Did you catch much of game 1?
Yeah, I saw everything except the draft. So.
Okay. This
was,
Lycan has been like the big pick. It feels like.
Yeah. I think actually Lycan's been underrated a lot. Like right after the patch, like almost everyone just completely ignored it. Like we weren't even seeing it being picked or banned at all. And then recently, I think EG sort of like started the resurgence of Lycan, especially on Dire. But I think it's playable on Radiant too. I mean, the Howl is still the same. The only nerf that happened was to the ultimate. And in team fights, it can actually even be a buff to some extent. But I think the hero is still really strong. So.
And I think if you look at like game 1, where like they brought down all the tier 1 and tier 2 towers so fast, even if they do that, if they do it on the Radiant side, they still get Roshan. Like you don't have that easy early Roshan control, but once you bring down towers and get map control, which Lycan does, you still have that same access to the Roshan pit. So we'll see what they have in mind here. They also like pairing it with the Visage, so the familiars getting the bonus damage from Howl is also really powerful in these fights.
I really like the Lycan Visage combo. I think it's actually better than the Drow Visage, only because then you don't have a Drow on your team. Because I think a lot of times Drow becomes a liability.
Yeah. I mean, Drow's more damage for the familiars, but yeah, I definitely agree that Drow's a big liability compared to Lycan, who's got 650 movement speed in a team fight, can build BKB pretty easily, and fits nicely with him. Just a lot more tanky, so
yeah, for sure. And the LGD are going to pick up the Ogre Magi, a hero that is quickly rose to popularity. I mean, the hero is actually just so good right now. It's so tanky. It can actually even solo zone certain offlaners by itself. Very versatile. And in the late game, it has so much burst potential, especially with the Aghanims. And the multicast buff is just so huge. And honestly, Ignite is such an annoying spell for Blink heroes, and since Blinks are so popular, because I think the range with the multicast Ignite is something like 1600 or something, and it hits people in Fog as well, so
that's the multicast Ignite. Yeah, I definitely agree. It's one of the most annoying things, and it prioritizes heroes, I believe. Is that like the multicast?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
I think on Ignite it does, yeah.
So we'll see what the plan's going to be. CDEC have got Tide Razor so far to talk about some of their picks, which is a pretty vanilla opening. Nothing too crazy coming out from them. We'll see what they have in mind if they try and shut down the Lycan more this game compared to last game where they just gave him complete free farm. And one of the things I think they did really well last game was like Lycan got his early Vlads and then he just left the lane, gave the so much farm to the supports of LGD Gaming. Like that Visage had such a fast Aghanim Scepter.
Yeah, and I casted LGD in the NEST, and I've noticed that they actually, out of all the Chinese teams, I think do the best job of getting their supports farm in the early game. Like, not even just on one of their supports, but on both of them. Like, they'll rotate each support to have a bit of, like, time alone into a lane. And so they always try to pick a carry that can, at some point, leave the lane, either to roam and set up kills, or to farm the jungle, and then they'll give up the lane to one of the supports. And they do a really good job of farming these two support players, and I think it's mostly because they're both 4 players. Yeah. I think because MMY on his old team, I mean,
They're both
obviously
kind of
MMY by his
flexible, I'd
words,
say.
but
I don't
yeah.
know. I guess technically they were
Sounds
kind of both
muted.
5s, but they both also got a lot of farm. Like MMY played with Lamb, who would get a bit of farm, and then Faith would play with Tron was kind of the 4 player for IG, but even Faith would get a lot of farm in the IG days. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But
They both farming support players, I think.
yes, yeah. All right. Well, Mirana gets picked up for LGD Gaming. Most likely going to be a roaming support, and we've seen the Mirana pick like.
Yeah.
You just sit around mid lane and just continuously throw arrows. Eventually one generally lands and you can turn it into a kill, so it's just so annoying for whoever's going mid, most likely the Razor on the CDEC side.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we've seen pretty much the end of the core Mirana.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very rare if we... Maybe situationally it's okay, like if for some reason it's good, but I think it's pretty much no more core Miranas.
I think what teams are also realizing with the support Mirana is that it can just roam on its lonesome self. Like, sure, you're going to miss
Yeah.
a few arrows here or there, but you don't have to dedicate like a Shadow Demon
It
or
puts a
some
lot
kind
of
of setup.
pressure.
Yeah.
Just like having arrows flying at you mid puts a lot of mental pressure on you as a mid laner. I mean, even if they don't connect, you're just constantly in fear that you're going to get arrowed, and then you're like checking if Podham's there, and you are nervous about going to runes because Podham's off the map and you've just had arrows being shot at you.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's actually a big deal when... So, and you're not as free to like play as aggressive in the mid lane against Podham.
Yeah. So likely we see Mirana sitting around that mid lane. Ogre, I mean, you said it can just zone out those offlaners kind of on his own pretty well. And Tide, he's melee, he's got Anchor Smash, but he's not going to match up fantastic against an Ogre support. CDEC go Venge, though. So they're going to have a very strong killing support duo with a lot of early game ganking potential. So maybe thinking that they want to actually put a bit more pressure on the Lycan. Like, we don't really see offensive tri-lanes out of these Chinese teams ever. I don't know. You casted NEST. Was it mostly just kind of defensive tri-lanes?
There was one aggro tri-lane game and it was a disaster.
That's...
I think it's just... The reason why I don't think Chinese teams run aggressive tri-lanes is because generally Chinese teams don't pick super greedily like Western teams.
Okay.
Like they'll pick greedy but in a different way. They won't pick like jungling support and then another support that's not defensive and like a core that's not very strong in lane. And I know a lot of Western teams, they'll just like pick, you know, some jungler and then a really weak dual lane, and then, you know, you can get it punished by an aggressive tri-lane. But in China, and it's just so risky to be running these aggressive tri-lanes. I mean, if it fails, you almost just lose the game. I would say, I think like 90% of the time, I think if your aggressive lane loses, you'll probably just lose. Unless in the safe lane you have a really beneficial matchup.
Yeah, because mid 1v1 matchups never can be that one-sided. It's, yeah, I guess you have the one-sided matchup in maybe your safe lane versus their off lane, but if that's going to be the case, I feel like most teams would just kind of like avoid that 1v1 matchup, which is, if it's that unfavorable, it's like, it's not worth risking it.
Yeah, it can assist in your mid matchup, but... And I think for CDEC it's going to be really important to find the Skywrath's levels early, so that they can get the level 6 on Skywrath and then smoke gank with the Vengeful Spirit. I think these supports, if they have a strong start, are very powerful together, but if they fall behind, I'm kind of worried just in the fact that they're both extremely squishy if they're behind, and they won't provide... Like, Skywrath from behind is almost completely useless, and Bench from behind is only very useful with the swap. So they're not supports that function very well from behind, so CDEC are definitely going to have to look to have an early start in controlling LGD.
Okay. Yeah, the DK pickers feel is just like, they want to have that pushing potential for some towers, and then, I mean, it's a good tanky frontliner, but by no means is this like going to be a scary late game DK. I feel like CDEC's late game is just not going to be I guess it's not bad. Razor can scale. Tidehunter with Refresher ulti is nice, but well, Necrophos now coming into play. You don't want to go late game against this.
I think it
LGD
was
team.
okay until this Necrophos pick.
I feel like this Necrophos pick is so good here.
Yeah, I like it a lot here. I think it's good against both Razor and the Dragon Knight, because both of these heroes are going to get large HP pools. If you can get them below half, you can ult them. And then at some point you're going to have that Aghanim, so they're not even going to have buybacks available.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see what CDEC do to try and adjust this. I mean, can they even... I guess they can't really change their lanes too much unless they do go for that offensive trialing with, like, Razor, Venge, Skyreth, but doing that against Ogre Mirana, like, that's just
it's
so
just
risky.
too risky.
Yeah.
I think you can't do it because the Ogre can actually just play very aggressive. And do you want to be initiating on Ogre? Because I don't think you would actually get a kill onto Ogre, and then you're going to maybe get arrowed after that.
Yep.
I don't know. It's actually a very difficult lane to aggressive into.
And the 1v1 matchups are not really that great either. Like, Darkseer will do perfectly fine against the Tidehunter. And if LGD want, they can send Silo mid. I think that's actually maybe the case here. They're doing Yao in the safe lane and Silo mid. So Silo's not worried about an offensive trial lane.
Yeah, I think this is a smart decision. I think Lycan should do very well against DK. I would say it's slightly favored for Lycan. He has superior base damage. Of course, once DK gets that bottle running, he's just going to be spamming Breathe Fire anyway.
The one thing is CDEC do have a lot of ganky potential with their supports towards the mid lane.
Yeah.
Like, we look towards maybe some early smokes picked up by CDEC, although they don't have any yet. Venge opting for the boots instead, but Silo going to be having a rough time if ganks come his way. So we'll introduce our two teams here. It is Game 2 of LGD versus CDEC in the Summit 2 by G2A.com China playoffs. On the Radiant side, we'll have LGD's MMY on the support Mirana. We're going to have Yao playing the safe lane farming Necrophos. Faith on the Ogre Magi. We've got Sylar on the solo mid Lycan. And in the top lane, it will be In July on the Darkseer. For the Dire side, it's going to be CDEC down a game here 1-0. We've got their carry player on the Razor at top lane. We've got Skyreth Mage being played by Garda. We've got Maybe on the mid Dragon Knight. Q playing the support Vengeful Spirit. And finally, in the offlane, Tidehunter, boots first for him, being played by 333. So, see what early runes can be picked up here for both the two teams as In July gets a bounty rune.
Haste.
Oh god. Now he already has boots, so I guess the boots negated, but this is still annoying.
Still a really good rune for an Ogre, especially with this Potom. They do have a smoke, so they could look for a smoking, but it just looks like he's going to use this to harass the offlaner.
Yeah, comes back to the high ground, could go for that smoke mid, and yeah, they're actually going to do that.
They are.
Venge's camp behind. I guess often you see that like level 1 smoke gank coming around before the room, but he's actually... They're just going to go straight through the river, maybe. This could be bad.
They're going to get this, I think.
Yeah, haste onto the high ground, Fire Blast into Arrow, perfectly chained, and maybe's got no way out of this one. First Blood, taken by the Lycan as well, so... That's worst case scenario for CDEC as far as this start goes.
That is probably the worst rune for CDEC to have spawn against them with the Ogre in the bottom.
Yeah. They
Fairly
had the vision of
unfortunate
it.
for them.
They had the vision
did,
of
actually.
it too, but I guess they just didn't expect the smoke game, because end of the day they knew the haste room was picked up, but the smoke towards the mid lane was what caught DK by surprise.
He was playing fairly safe in the mid lane, so not entirely his own fault. It looks like he's doing fairly well in the mid lane. He's up to 6 CS.
I wouldn't even say it hurt maybe that much. It just gives Sylar such a big gold boost. Like more than anything, it's just helping Sylar rather than hurting maybe.
Yeah, I agree. And it looks like in the top lane, the Darkseer is in the last game just abandons the off lane for a little bit to do a little bit of stack. He just did the medium camp for level 2. Yeah. Looks like.
Make sure he has his surge.
He might go down.
Yeah, they've got no silence just yet on Garda, and they're looking to just body block him. Pretty nicely played here. In July deciding he needs to go back to his tower, but with so much damage stolen, this is going to be a kill going the way of CDEC. So a bit cocky coming out from the Darkseer, thinking he could just TP in there because of the surge. Razor will take some damage from an Iron Shell, and Vengeful Spirit.
What?
Oh, what was that? Just run to your tower, mate. I don't know.
No, they didn't have creeps. Oh man, that was actually... So there was 2 Iron Shells running on the Radiant creeps.
Gotcha.
And Dire had no creeps left, so if they walk through the tower, they would have just been tanking the tower, and none of them had enough HP to walk back through the tower. So they were trying to juggle the creeps, but Venge ended up falling there.
I think Darkseer got XP for the kill. Yeah, Darkseer had respawned.
Yeah, he did.
That's huge.
That's
Darkseer
actually
wins
really
that
good
exchange
for
there.
Yeah.
Oh man. Like normally you get it, like you get a kill right after you die. It's like, oh man, you don't get the XP for it. But they took so long to get the kill. Yeah. He still comes out on top. He will find the Skywrath Mage here. If he puts an Iron Shell on himself, could maybe get aggressive, but it is on cooldown. And Mirana going to swing top now. So maybe MMY thinking that he can find a kill on an over-aggressive support hero up top.
Yeah, and I think this is pretty intelligent from MMY. If they overextend or overplay into the Darkseer just a little bit, with the Ion Shell damage plus an arrow coming in, I think they could easily pick up a kill.
Yeah. Looking at the mid lane, pretty even on CS right now, 20 CS to 18, so nothing really separating the two. DK can just bottle Crow or get the runes every 2 minutes and just keep spamming the Breathe Fire, so... See if LGD try and smoke gank mid. They have smoked up, could head top, but I imagine mid is going to be the much juicier kill for the LGD.
That's probably going to be mid.
Yeah, DK's so far up. This is a dead-looking Dragon Knight. First stun, arrow, there's your second stun, and maybe we'll get hit by that. The Howl damage as well. Well-executed smoke gank from LGD.
Yeah, and this is the risk that you run whenever you're running these melee mids, is that it's just so easy to smoke gank them on support heroes. Because they're always going to be playing, most likely, towards the middle of the river, and once they're at that point, they're just easy kills.
By the way, have you got your open mic on in Dota TV? I think a few people saying they can't.
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. If you guys are listening and struggling to hear him, just maybe toggle the channel off and on, and you should be good to hear my co-caster FRL there. But get back into this game now. 4-minute ruin is an invis for the Vengeful Spirit. Maybe thinking they can go on this Lycan here, but this would require a decent chunk of damage. He doesn't have Flame Breath for another 5 seconds or so, and it's actually Ogre Magi on the south side who gets scattered out by a ward and zoned out. So CDEC bring their supports mid, but they're not really getting much out of this right now.
And if we compare the last hits in the safe lane, those are about even on the Razor and the Necrophos. Razor ahead just slightly. Mid's fairly even. And a pretty quiet early game aside from the mid kills and that exchange top.
It doesn't feel like either team is pulled really far ahead. They will go for a kill mid lane on Silo with the chain stun here, but maybe gets hit by a big arrow, so as a result, it's just going to get turned around. Tide shows up, no Ravage available just yet, but just his presence will deter any further chase as Dragon Knight will escape. But that's a 5-man swing towards mid lane. They even TP'd in the Razor. 5 CDEC heroes mid. This is not efficient play. That
really hurts CDEC if they don't get a kill here.
Yeah. They're farming us.
Wow.
What's Soga doing? I come back mid and he's just gone in for a kill on the Dragon Knight and he gets it. Gets the XP and then gets killed by, well, the 4 CDEC heroes who just happen to be mid, but that is probably not what you wanted to have happen there.
Yeah, this isn't looking good for CDEC. So they go on the kill on the Lycan. You know, they aren't able to secure it as the Dragon Knight eats a 4-second arrow to the face, but at that point I think you just abandon the kill. Instead they choose to rotate all 5 heroes to the mid lane. They aren't able to secure a single kill, and during all of that, Darkseer and Necrophos are just getting free reign in their lanes.
One good thing is Tide has got himself a nice little Ancient stack which he can farm up here. And that's going to maybe get him towards that Blink Dagger or some even just some Arcane Boots at this point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely favors LGD. You've got Injuly who's managed to get level 5 in the offlane. Mid lane though, MMY in some trouble here. Doesn't get the leap hop before the silence comes in, and we'll get it now after the silence and Arcane Bolt. Oh! Barely survives it. That stun is not going to hit from the arrow, so maybe we'll survive. Luckily for him, he's already died 3 times in this middle lane after that Ogre kill, so not been a very friendly mid lane.
5 HP left for MMY. Really close call there.
Yeah, he did cut it close. Well, again, CDEC to swing all these heroes mid lane, but don't find anything off of it. They're going to go for a smoke now, and this should be a successful game.
This has to work. Yeah.
I feel like they have to get the Necro. If they get someone like the Ogre instead, this isn't even necessarily that worth it, and it looks like they're going to run right into the Ogre. It's still a kill, but it's the Necrophos they really want. Necro's pretty far up. They may be going for multiple heroes. Here comes a TP from the Mirana to start things off. Necro's silenced up, but the arrow hits maybe. Yao's still alive. He could go for Reaper, but gets chain stunned up, so they do get the Necrophos. That's the ideal kill for that smoke gank, I feel.
Yep. Lycan is pushing the mid lane, so they should probably rotate someone to deal with him. It looks like it's going to be the Razor. But is he going to make it in time? That's going down very quickly.
TP needed as well. So they bring Razor and Tide. Lycan actually just goes right in. Okay, not going for the kill. He just wants the tower. And Razor, yeah, he's not getting that design. And Darkseid's still free farming top. So this is really...
Yeah.
LGD just seem to kind of be, like, just toying with CDEC. Like, they're just the puppeteers right now. Like, CDEC are just moving around the map, but it seems to be at LGD's command because they're not really getting too many good kills off of it.
Strategically, it just seems like LGD are 3 steps ahead of CDEC at the moment.
Yeah. They're playing well. They're kind of reading everything CDEC tries to do right now, and well, the next attempt seems to be a kill on this Vengeful Spirit for LGD.
Yeah.
They bring the Ogre up here, and this is like when your supports are just trying to get some farm, and you just realize they're someone alone here. TP from the Razor, and Ogre decides it's best not to chase him.
Yeah, they're just sending fewer heroes to contest objectives, and it allows their solos to get more farm. But previously, it was the Darkseer and the Necrophos. In the last engagement, it was the Lycan and the Darkseer, and every time they're just getting more and more farm accrued on these heroes, while CDEC are in a 4 or 5 man group. Yep. So
LGD's actually smoked up 2 heroes towards top now. Lycan deciding to come to the party, leave that mid lane now that he's took a tier 1. And ideal scenario here is you get a kill and you follow it up with a tower. But Lycan showing up top means they definitely want to at least get this tower out of this. Razor seems to have a pretty good idea that something's going on because he's really hugging his tower playing defensively.
And it looks like CDEC are going to smoke their own behind the tier 2 in the top lane. LGD so this actually could be pretty decent.
Yeah. Yao's got a TP, so he could join up to this top lane as well, although he will be a bit late to the fight if CDEC reveal them and get a good fast Ravage off, so... Maybe he's got a TP scroll as well. Both teams just in a bit of a standoff here, although neither one quite realizes. Vengeful Spirit, I think it's scud. Yep, Wolves will be there. And you see the Vengeful Spirit, you probably have a pretty good idea it's not a solo Vengeful Spirit. Arrow goes flying, will scatter absolutely everyone. Actually hits the Vengeful Spirit! He's like him, Wolves. Luckily there's an Anchor Smash, that's gonna... Well, the Anchor Smash basically saves the Vengeful Spirit's life there.
I think without the Anchor Smash, she might have actually fallen there.
Again, it's CDEC, like, smoking up and bringing a lot of heroes. I guess LGD did the same thing there, but I feel like LGD just get back to farming that much quicker.
Yeah, they're just being a lot more decisive than CDEC right now. You know, we saw in the top lane, Ogre stuns a hero, they see a TP, they immediately back off, and then they, after pushing out mid lane, they immediately smoke and make a rotation to top lane, and then once they realize it's not going to work out, they just rotate heroes mid, continue to farm,
now they're bottom.
And now they're bottom. Yeah. And I mean, they're just rotating very well this game, pulling CDEC apart.
And it's not like CDEC are pushing too. CDEC have like very weak pushing power here at the top lane. They've got 4 heroes up there, DK's mid, but they can't even really pressure this top tier 1. At least not very quickly. TP's going to come in. Actually mid lane, MMY, one last right click. Oof, disjoints it. 1 HP on Mirana. Not the second time MMY has cut it very close, but it's the bottom tier 2 tower where CDEC are looking to mount a defense. They've got Ravage available, but LGD once more, they'll see a large number of heroes. Swap will catch out, so it will be a kill on Fate, but I think they just cut their losses here. Yeah, Sylar pops the ultimate, but he's just going to use that to retreat. Zoga, well, he's the sacrificial lamb for this fight.
And 4 heroes required in the defense. They only get the support Ogre. Lycan escapes. Looks like he TP's mid and they're going on maybe. Not going to be able to pick up that kill.
And they only barely got that kill on Ogre. That swap was like right at the edge of the range then. If they don't get that swap, there's no other real initiation. Maybe a concussive shot slow could have set something up, but they were lucky to get the 1 kill, it feels like. In July, still farming.
In July,
oh god. He's having a great time up here. Has his mech, has 700 gold on top of that, and he hasn't even really shown up to a fight yet.
Yeah, and I think this is where Darkseer can shine, is when he's allowed to just split push, you know, the off lane that he's in, and pressure the lane as long as possible. He really struggles in games where he has to offer some sort of presence in the early game. But this game, he's being allowed, he's got his mana boots, his soul ring, and a mechanism at 12 minutes.
Considering he'd started, I guess it wasn't really that bad a start since he got a kill when he got taken down, but he's doing really well. CDEC going to try and get some pressure on this bottom tower with Razor, but that's a solo Razor. The real CDEC squad is huddled around this middle lane, maybe anticipating some kind of a push coming in from LGD. LGD have got all the tier 1 towers on the map taken down from the Dire side, and even just with tier 1 towers down, if they want to go for a Roshan attempt, they could probably do so when Ravage is on cooldown, which is not the case right now, but they can force out a Ravage and not take too many losses. That kind of could give them an opening to either go for a tier 2 tower or go for a Roshan. And I think these wolves...
Oh, and they just smoked on top of... Yeah.
Yeah. It seems Yao, yeah,
so
he
looks like,
throws one last nuke and just runs like hell. Full retreat.
Well, that is very unfortunate. And I think they actually smoked on a ward as well.
Yeah. I think they did right by that secret shop area.
They might look to bait Yao in the bottom lane. No, they're just going to walk through an observer ward. So, another wasted smoke for...
CDEC will go flying through. Arrow catches out the Venture 2. They've caught Sylar though. Can they get the chainsaw here? Ravage goes through as well. Sylar no ultimate will get silenced up, brought down in July, the second target. The mech is a bit late there, but there will be a Reaper side kill onto the Skywrath mates. 3-3-3 on full retreat mode. It's entire CDEC team on full retreat mode. Lycan's actually fought back, popped the ultimate. Off on the side he killed the Vengeful Spirit, and for LGD this has been another good fight for them. And it's possibly not over, as it looks like they're going to maybe get the Razor as well. Sylar, with the help of an arrow,
it should be Roche.
Kill. Yeah, they're pinging it. They've got the Howl damage. They haven't got the medallion, but I don't think they need it right now.
Sylar with a bit of awkward positioning. I think he was trying to bait a fight, but then he just got bursted by the Skywrath, the Venge, and the Ravage.
Yeah.
But not too bad. He just buys back ults and is able to rejoin them in the fight. And they get Roshan, so they got 4 for a buyback.
It was a 500 gold buyback, and he got 2 kills. Well, I guess he got 1 kill and 1 assist, but either way, the kill and assist made up for that 500 gold that he spent, so... And, hey, and like you say, plus a Roshan. Easily worth the buyback at this stage of the game. So, we'll see in July, back top, continuing to farm on that Darkseer, and everyone on this LGD side is just getting more and more ferocious. Yao's working on what could well be a BKB on the Necrophos, maybe the Ag Scepter, but against all the stuns and the silence of the Skywrath mages, this is a very good BKB game for the LGD side.
I think it'll be a BKB.
Tide's gonna get caught out, focused down. Sylar doesn't even need his ultimate, he's just leaving the wolves and actually not gonna get the kill on the Tide. Quite, as Sylar now has Aegis in hand, and CDEC are trying to just force that one out. There's a Dire Sentry Ward gets used just to try and deal with this Moonlight Shadow, but no casualties here at the bottom river. This is just not looking good to see.
Oh, and they put the Ion Shell on the wolf.
Another great little bit of synergy in their lineup. Luckily for Vengeful Spirit, the Reaper side doesn't get the kill. Otherwise, he'd be dead for an extra 30 seconds on top of that. And they're still Ancient.
I would be interested to know, because I know that CDEC picked the Darkseer in the previous game.
Yeah.
But what the reasoning is behind the... I mean, this is sort of a resurgence of Darkseer, I guess, in the Chinese scene, but I'm just sort of curious as to why. I still don't feel that this hero is very strong. It doesn't really offer you... Oh, it looks like they're going to be going on maybe.
Maybe. He's got 2k gold, which is going to lose a bit of a chunk of him. It doesn't get hit by the arrow, so... Looks like he may be okay. The Ignite thrown from afar here, and this time around there's more like an ultimate being channeled, and we'll see Q go down and possibly maybe as well on the Dragon Knight. Yep, 650 movement speed, Lycan, no way out for the Dragon Knight. Gets a stun down, but you get some kills, you transition maybe towards this tier 2 mid tower. There's a Tide Ravage to worry about, but Tide nowhere to be seen as far as this mid or top lane. So Darkseer, what do you feel is this hero's biggest problems right now that doesn't make him that good?
I think, like you said in the previous game, just when he struggles sometimes to get level 2, and you have to skill up Ion Shell, because otherwise you lose the lane, and then he's also pushing the lane, which is sort of counterintuitive for an offlaner. And there's just, against the supports that are picked right now, it's actually quite easy to zone him. And I just don't feel like he has the teamfight impact that he once had. Because if you look at what cores are popular, I mean, on the side of CDEC, I mean, it's good, I think, to steal the dragon. But, I mean, stealing these other heroes doesn't really do very much for you. I guess the Venge too as well.
Wall
so
seems like nice in the late game, but
yeah, it's
compared to a Refresher Tide or something late game, or a Doom, or a Centaur, the hero doesn't seem to offer as much.
I mean, it does give you some utility. I actually liked the idea CDEC had last game with their Darkseer a bit more, because they had the Slurk.
Yeah.
And I think that if you have a melee hero, maybe, then it can work out. Like a melee hero that's like a fighter.
The Lycan kind of fills that role. We've saw the Lycan Wolves.
Yeah, I guess the Lycan. But
I think without some kind of hero or like Lycan Wolves to use Iron Shell on, you're not getting a lot of good value out of it. We'll see Lycan run into a lot of heroes. He does get the ulti off, but the burst damage. Yikes. Going for a Necrophos.
he does have the Aegis.
Oh yeah, he's got Aegis. Won't have an ultimate, unfortunately, which is problematic for him. Tide shows up as well. He's got Ravage, and Drow catches two with this Yow from the side. Doesn't have any detection on this Dire Squad. The Sentry Ward was already used further west, and it looks like MMY will walk into that. Necro gets a kill on the Razor now, and the damage isn't done here. Garda really low, vacuum back in on all three, and without a Ravage, there's just no way for CDEC to fight this one. Maybe he'll get chased down, brought down by the Iron Shell. 3-3-3. Well, he's found a room, but he's not going to survive this one. 4 heroes dead on the CDEC side. Just a Mirana kill, as Mirana walked into that Sentry Ward, but absolute disaster for CDEC.
Yeah, whenever you're playing against Necrophos, you really can't afford to be taking these long, drawn-out, engaged fights. So if you aren't able to burst down their heroes during the duration of Ravage and the DK stun and the Venge stun, I mean, you're really going to be having some problems just because of the massive amounts of heals that are going to be coming out.
Faith just goes surge onto the high ground. Will I think get a solo kill on Q here with the Urn Ignite. Pays for it with his life. Bit of a unnecessarily aggressive play, but not the end of the world here, although possibly with a tier 2 defense being mounted. 3-3-3 gonna just lead the charge as they TP in, but they have not got Ravage. They haven't really got a way to engage into this LGD lineup who just kind of regroup, and they don't really even care if they get this tier 2 tower now or later.
Yeah. And honestly, they're in no hurry. I think their late game is very strong on the side of LGD. They have both the Lycan and the Necrophos, which, I mean, Lycan scales decently well into the late game, but Necrophos, I mean, probably one of the best late game heroes with the Aghanim Scepter.
And, I mean, even at this stage, we're only 20 minutes in, and this Necrophos, just with Tread's BKB, like, there's no real answer to the BKB. There's no physical damage. Razor is just kind of melting in these fights without a BKB of his own, so...
Yeah. And I feel that the reason Necrophos is so strong is that he just builds all defensive items, but he's still able to output damage. I mean, he has the damage from the Death Pulse, the ongoing Heartstopper aura, and then the threat of the Reaper's Sight. And he's just allowed to build... Yeah, I mean, he basically just goes 5 tank items.
Yeah.
And it's just
sounds about
it's
right.
impossible to... I mean, sometimes it just gets to the point where it's just impossible to kill him once or, you know, sometimes twice with an Aegis.
We'll see a first tier 2 tower brought down by LGD, and probably more to come. The Necro 3 has been completed on Lycan. Deciding to go for that over the BKB, and actually there's an engagement bottom lane. They found the Tide who has a Ravage, but he does not want to throw this. Oh, and that's a Reaper kill as well, so no respawn for a good 60 plus seconds. That should be tier 2 mid, and they may even try, like, breach the high ground here. Force a Tide buyback or something.
Yeah, and at this point it's so hard for CDEC to take engagements. If we look at the gold, it's at 14, 15,000, 13,000 experience.
Yeah.
Just a really rough game for CDEC.
And they want to try time this Tide buyback with like a DK stun so they can force a fight, but this tier 3 tower is dropping so fast. He still doesn't pull back. He's waiting a long time to do this. He's just going to let the Raxes go down, it looks like. They've already lost the melee Rax at this point. Not even worth the buyback. DK got a tier 1 tower. That's not worth trading for your Rax, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess even with a Tide buyback, it was going to be a really like tough or near impossible hold anyways, but at this stage going down
I think you have to try.
Yeah, you go down to mid-Rax, it's pretty much GG.
I would say at this point, their chance for a comeback is probably less than 1%. Just because I think LGD have the superior late game, they're already ahead a significant margin, and a mid-Rax is gone at 20 minutes. Yeah. That is just... It's very difficult to come back from. So CDEC are going to try to get the BKB on both the Dragon Knight and the Razor. It looks like DK just completes his. Razor's about 1,300 gold away from his. And maybe that's the fight they're looking for once they get the 2 BKBs up.
I feel once Lycan gets his BKB though, it's just like, what can CDEC do in a fight? Like, you're not... If all their damage is coming from these nukes and the disables get taken out of the picture, Razor and DK aren't going to... I mean, their BKBs only work when the Tide Ravage is stunning people, when the DK and the Venge is stunning people, so...
I guess they're gonna hope for maybe getting a link off on the Lycan, maybe when he's changing forms or stunned.
I feel like they have to burst down Lycan or someone before he pops
Yeah.
his BKB. Like, chain stun him perfectly with a like Venge stun, or DK stun probably ideally into a Ravage or something, but that's going to be
Yeah, I
good.
think that's the only way.
So,
So I think once the BKBs come out for CDEC, we'll probably end up seeing either the last engagement of the game or they miraculously win the engagement and then the game continues.
see that maybe like 5-man complexity style desperate smoke gank.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Probably.
I don't know what else you can do. Even with the BKBs, I don't think you can just sit on the high ground and wait for LG to come to you when you get those BKBs. You need to catch them by surprise.
Christ, the complexity smoking. That's going back in time a little bit.
Yeah. Well, maybe he's trying to get the engagement at the top lane. He goes running in, but can't even find the stun on face. It's going to be a Mirana Moonlight Shadow being popped here. As there's going to be a great vacuum coming in. The wall to follow as well. Ravage hits almost no one from CDEC, and it's a disaster. Razor gets brought down. Immediate buyback coming into play as Tide will go down as well. And, well, it's a full-on chase from Sylar. He's willing to go into the high ground place. Looking for the Vengeful Spirit, maybe in over his head, though, but doesn't seem to be too big a problem for them as they get the DK kill as well. The BKB not really working out doing much. And Vengeful Spirit's just going to die to the heart stop, or it's GG. 4-5 here is dead on the CDEC side, and nothing they can do at this point. It's going to be a 2-0 victory for LGD here in our first BO3.
Yeah, really well played by LGD. I really liked their map movement in the early game. I thought they sort of baited out some TPs and then were just able to... It's almost like they were split pushing in a sense, because they constantly had their 3 cores in 3 separate lanes at all times, and they would just go around baiting TPs, and then whichever core was left alone would just start pushing against the tower. And they did a really good job.
Do you think we're going to be seeing a lot more Lycan over like the next few weeks?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think especially on Dire.
Yes.
I think, at least personally in my recent games, there's been a lot of bans on Radiant towards Lycan.
Yep.
So, the hero is just so good still. And people are realizing it.
Yeah, we even saw there, like, it forces, like, your opponents to ban heroes that otherwise they wouldn't ban as well in the second stage. Like, CDEC felt
like
they had to ban the
Visage.
Visage, which,
Yeah.
for LGD, sure, they'd like to get the Visage Lycan again, but it's not really a make or break for their lineup, so it affects so much how you have to play. But, well, that does it. It's a pretty quick 2-0. Thanks for joining me for this game here, FR. Where can people follow you, and any last words or shout-outs from yourself?
Sure, you can follow me on Twitter at FRLDota. And no shoutouts tonight.
Alright, no shoutouts. Well, you can follow me at BTS Gods. Guys, stick around. We've got one more BO3, but it's not going to be for a couple of hours. We've got Vici Gaming versus Newbie. That's the other winner bracket semi-final. A big, big matchup, but that is not scheduled for some time. This BO3 took no time at all. That's in, 2 hours from right now, guys. So we'll see you then. Maybe keeping the stream up, but actually we've got the SCA Summit matches going on. So check out Triumph of Man casting over on BTS2 for the Summit SCA. IAP Execration are taking on Winter's team right now. So guys, we'll see you in 2 hours for Summit China, but until then, check out some Summit SCA.